So I believe there was a Marine or two amongst you. There's one young man over here in the choir wearing shorts. He will become a Marine. Because he's tougher than the rest of us on this whole day. So being a Marine in Vietnam was not all what it was cracked up to be. Most of us, Army, Navy, Air Force personnel that were sent there had a 12-month tour. Now those Marines are just a lot tougher than we are. They had 13 months. Now those Marines died and bled just as much as the rest of us. And there were several occasions where I had to render assistance to Marines, and it was kind of an enriching experience. I'll talk more about service in Vietnam. You heard the taps there a while ago. As you know, that's played at all military funerals. It's also played at most observances for Veterans Day. Every day should be classified as Veterans Day. But there was 58,220 households that were visited by 2 officers 24 hours a day, middle of the night, day, told that their loved one had died in Vietnam. And that his remains would be shipped home, and they would be working with the local funeral director. And from then on, the military was still involved. So when you sign your name in the military, you become their property. They have complete control over you until you leave the service. So in many cases, they were very helpful with when those remains were sent home. The wife sent a bodyguard, and that bodyguard was on duty all the time that casket and body was available for viewing. And he went to the funeral home or to the cemetery and everything, just like the funeral directors do. And he was the last one to leave, just like the funeral directors. It's still happening today. A lot of us Vietnam veterans are succumbing to effects of Agent Orange. It was a defoliant that was used in the 60s to kill all vegetation. When it was sprayed onto vegetation, namely trees, in the morning, those leaves had wilted by night and had dropped the next morning. That's how a field of fire was cleared for us to fight. So back in the 60s, the draft was prevalent. You got a letter from your county stating that you'd been selected to appear or to go to Milwaukee for a physical. You would go to your courthouse, get on a bus. That bus would stop at many other locations en route to Milwaukee. Pick up a bus full. You'd get there, you'd spend a day and a half getting poked, prodded, whatever, measured. You have psychological tests. Some of us didn't do well on them. Mr. Eggy and I kind of flunked. So we kind of ended up in the infantry instead of getting in the Air Force like Mr. Simonson over here. Now, the minimum requirement to get in the military in 1968, you had to be 5 foot, 4 inches tall, and weigh 110 pounds. I weighed 115 pounds and was 5'5". I have shrunk enough that I probably wouldn't have to go now. But anyway, pass the physical, go back home, 2 or 3 weeks later, you get the report for induction. That's when you say goodbye to your loved ones for the last time for at least 18 weeks. Then you find out how many shots your body can tolerate. You'll get a lot of them, but not near as many as when you are going to Vietnam. So you get through that, you are flown to an Army base, and in my case was Fort Campbell, Kentucky. Spent 9 weeks there getting my brain retrained so that you think the Army way, not the civilian way. From then on, being designated infantry, got a nice long bus ride to Fort Polk, Louisiana. If there's anywhere in the country that is the same geographical terrain as Vietnam, it's Fort Polk, Louisiana. A lot of those veterans call it Fort Puke. I was there in the spring, June, July, another 9 weeks of training. Now this was for going to Vietnam. All aspects thereof. When you are in the infantry, you are trained to do one thing, and that is to kill the enemy. And that is indoctrinated in you from day one. Graduate from Fort Polk, Louisiana. You get a 30-day leave. Go see your family, friends, your classmates, which one of them happens to be sitting over here in the audience. Drink a little beer. We could drink beer when we were 18. I wasn't 18 till I was 18 then, but I didn't drink much beer and I still don't. After the 30-day leave, that's the time you say goodbye to your loved ones. Your mother, your father, your siblings, your girlfriend, if you have one. I think I had one, I'm just not sure. Would you please stand up, Connie? So with that in mind, I believe she's the one that took me to the airport. I'm not sure that my parents were able to go that day. I can't remember, 67 years ago. But I know she was the one to pick me up when I came home 14 months later. And it was a very welcome reunion, I'll guarantee you. 2 years later, roughly, we were married. We were blessed with 2 children. We've enjoyed a good life. There's a few ups and downs health-wise for me, all due to the military, but we're going to get through. But behind every veteran is a lady, and I'd like to have some of the other ladies who are married to veterans, please stand up. So with those ladies, they had to live with us crazy Vietnam veterans. Some of us do have idiosyncrasies. Some label it as PTSD. I don't feel I have a lot of it, but you will not find me sitting with my back to an entrance to a building. I've got to sit where I can see the entrance. I also don't eat a lot of chicken, because when we were fed chicken and we were fed hot food in Vietnam, it was undoubtedly chicken. But anyway, moved to Vietnam, We were flown by airplane 19 hours. By contract carriers, they could have been American, Continental, no matter what. We were fed meals just like everybody else. Many troops preceding us went by troop ship, and they spent from 20 to 30 days getting there. We get to Vietnam, we go through a 3-day processing center at Long Binh. We're given our unit, we're flown to that unit, we spend 10 days there, and then we are trucked to our individual unit, which was the 5th Battalion, 46th Infantry. It's part of the Americal Division in Vietnam, based out of Chu Lai. We were located at a location called LZ Gator. 1,100 men on that. There was 4 infantry companies and a mortar platoon, an MP company, an artillery battery, and a quad 50 gun. It wasn't as big, about the same size as the Kickapoo campus. 24/7 we had to be on guard. We had bunkers all around that. Those bunkers had to be manned 24/7 because the insurgents, the Viet Cong, would try to infiltrate, crawl under the wire. To crawl under that wire, they had to crawl through a minefield. Sometimes they made it and sometimes they didn't. But there was always some machine guns and somebody else waiting for them. So now you get assigned to a company. The company is about 3 platoons of about 42 men. And in those, there's fire teams of about 10 men. Those 10 men are your lifeline for the rest of your time. Each and every one of you know what the other is going to do, how he or she is going to react. So you appreciate your time together. When you're not on a mission, you can have fun. You can have clean clothes. You can take a shower. You can go to the battalion mess hall, which could feed 200 people, and prepare that chicken. And sometimes there was noodles with it. And there was always mashed potatoes. Sometimes we'd get real eggs, but most time they were powdered eggs. The milk was powdered and, of course, remixed. But thanks to those farmers that milked those cows the first time, it was dehydrated and rejuvenated. So a typical day for a infantry soldier was, we're going to march to Reed's Town over the period of the next 2 days because there's some bad guys down there. Now I said march, that means 30 of us. We're gonna walk 30 feet apart. We're gonna walk slow. We're gonna have a point man that has one type of weapon. We're going to have a second man behind that has a different type of weapon. And we're going to have a third man behind that has a machine gun. If we run into any situations, remember all 30 of us are trained to handle it. We don't have Highway 131 to travel. So it's over hill and dale, through the creek, cut through the woods. And Mr. Eggy is our platoon sergeant. He's not going to let us go down the east side of 131. We just got a creek or two to cross. He wants us to go across the Kickapoo River. Now, he's not a very popular sergeant today. But we're going to cross that river. And we're going to get down there and we're going to get the job done. So those 3 days go by. We didn't find anything. Now they're going to pick us up with trucks and bring us back to LZ Gator. You say, hey, we're going to have a couple, 3 days off. Yes, you are, but you're going to pull guard duty and you're going to fill sandbags during the day. Another little matter, in Vietnam, there was no water. Our water, for potable water, had to be hauled about 7 miles from another fire base where there was a well. So with no water, there's no flush toilets, correct? You got 1,100 men that have to use some type of restroom facility. So there was one certain type for urination, which was a rocket tube stuck in the ground. You urinated in front of that, in front of God and everybody else. When you had to do the other duty, you went to a little house that may have had 4 or 6 sitting spots in it. Your excrement dropped into a 55-gallon barrel. Now, one of your platoon or squad mates went to sleep on guard duty last night. So the sergeant says, okay, you're gonna burn you know what today. So you go over there to that body, you have a big metal hook, you pull it out, you pour diesel fuel in there, and you spend the rest of your day stirring until that barrel is empty. That's part of life in Vietnam. 2 days later, here comes another mission. So on January 5th of 1969, we were notified that we were going on an 8,000-man mission with Marines and ARWA troops, which were civilian troops, to clear an area of civilians. And we did that in 20 days. We removed 11,000 people from their homes, evacuated them by huge helicopters. And after that, other forces went in and encountered an enemy and took care of it. That area was the most heavily mined area in Vietnam. We had a lot of mine casualties. There would be legs blowing off, extremities. Helicopters were a big thing in Vietnam, and medevacs, medical helicopters could normally reach us in 20 minutes and get us to a hospital. When we first got to Vietnam, we got a set of dog tags. There was 2 in a set. This one here has a little plastic wrapper around it, that went around your neck, so it didn't rattle when you're walking in the bush. This one here gets laced in one of your 2 boots. When you step on that mine, your leg is, one leg may be blown off, partially blown off, whatever. But you get to a hospital, they have some way of identifying you because you did not carry identification normally. You carried an 85-pound rucksack most of the time. So if you were KIA, then that was used to help notify your family. If you were wounded, you may be able to be rehabilitated at a local hospital. If not, you were shipped to Japan for further surgery and then shipped to the States for other care. So that's kind of what a day in the life of an infantryman is. So 28 days without a shower. How is everybody going to smell? They're going to smell the same. The Lord was willing and gave us new clothes at 16 days. So we get back to the fire base, and we were flown back by a Chinook helicopter, a large helicopter that held roughly 40-some troops. So we all wanted to shower, but before we could have a shower, we had to clean our weapons. We got that done and we took our turns and we had some time off to drink beer or whatever. But one thing is that these bonds that are formed between each of those soldiers are still prevalent today. I attend a reunion in Nashville each year, and there's usually about 15 to 20 veterans that attend. I served with only one or two of them because the others preceded me and some followed me. But that bond is still there. So I spent 6 months in the field as a grunt. There was an armor or an arms room in every unit where the spare weapons were kept. The first sergeant, he sends an order out to the field by radio that he needed somebody that had retail experience. So the sergeants come around and ask, and I told them about my retail experience. When I got back to the rear, I had to report to him. I had to tell him about working for Schultz Brothers, how I knew how to control inventory and account for it. And he said, well, I'm going to give you a choice today. He said, you can go back to the field with your buddies, or he said, you can become the new armorer. And you can straighten out the property books because we have weapons that are unaccounted for and some that can't be accounted for. He said, what's your choice going to be? I said, well, I think that's a pretty easy choice. I'll be your new armorer. In 3 weeks' time, I had all those property books straightened out. Then I just got to kind of be the armorer and do as I pleased. I didn't fill any sandbags anymore, but I did do radio watch because we had radio watch 24/7. So 1st of May, he called me back into his office and he said, you know, Sergeant Jones, the supply sergeant is leaving. He said, do you think you can be our supply sergeant? And he said, I'm going to give you that same choice I gave you 2 months ago. You can be the supply sergeant or you can go back to the bush. And I said, well, let's give it a shot. So 6 months later, I did leave Vietnam as a supply sergeant. I did achieve one more rank. I had 140 some men that I was totally responsible for 24/7 for all their material needs. That included ammunition, grenades. I was the only one in the whole company that could authorize or draw ammunition. The captain couldn't, or none of the sergeants. Thusly, flying home from Vietnam was called a Freedom Bird. Don't remember much about it, other than we were fed hot meals on the plane. We get to Seattle, Washington at around 8 o'clock at night on a Thursday, I believe. We were fed steak dinners at 10 o'clock at night. 3 days later, after processing, I was out of the service. We landed at Fort Lewis. They gave us money to pay our way or pay a taxi to get us to Seattle-Tacoma civilian airport, which was 40 miles away. Flew home to Madison, had a little reception by someone that's in a small package over there. A couple years later, we were married again. The children entered the picture. More years of working for Schultz Brothers. And in 1988, another bomb was dropped that they were filing Chapter 11 and ceasing to do business. So since that time, I've been involved with many other jobs. But this job of working for VARC, the last 5 years driving a bus, has probably been the most enriching of any of those jobs. My first pickup this morning, she wished me Happy Veterans Day. My second pickup said good morning. My third pickup gave me a fist bump because she doesn't speak. My fifth pickup wished me happy Veterans Day. One of them gave me a cookie, which I will have later today. So every day driving these special people makes my day better. When you can see animals, when they get excited over animals, when they see something happening in your community. So I know that some of your fellow students may have some learning disabilities or special needs. Please, please be sure and respect them at all times. Help them in any way that you can, whether it's carrying a tray, help them with their drink, or just help them with their backpack. Ask them to sit by you at the lunch table. So with that in mind, I'm going to say thank you for allowing me to be your guest speaker today. Did I do okay, Mr. Simonson? I'm going to change hats. Two of us can wear this cap. That's a combat infantry badge. I have other badges too, like Bronze Star, Army Commendation Medal, and a few others. But this is the one that means the most to me, and it's awarded to any veteran that is shot at under combat conditions. And when I take that one off, I have one that was given to me a few short weeks ago by some dear friends of mine who are standing over here. And this one says, born in the USA a long time ago. Thank you again.